So your dad hates millennials, huh?
Yeah, boomers, eh? I know how that works. No, he just used to tell me, like, because a friend of mine, he used to work in, what did he do? Furniture. So
Mm-hmm.
he was a furniture salesman. And he, I don't even remember how this went. He was on antidepressants and he used to take them with alcohol. And then all of a sudden he's like, I have a burnout, man. Just such a heavy life. And my dad just looked at him and he was like, burnout is just a new fad word you guys found out about. And now you're overusing it. You're just not used to hard work.
Ah, all right. Here, hold on one sec. That's our intro lead-in, and now we got yeah. I forgot
Nice.
to add intro music to it though. I can't figure out how to do that yet, but whatever.
Miami Vice.
I don't know. It's one of those things I just found rather nice.
That's pretty neat. You have, like, you've got OBS going on. I tried to download that on my Mac, but I need to get all sorts of drivers, and I don't know how that works. And I'm pretty lazy, so
Serves you right for getting a Macintosh.
how dare I? How
That's
dare
a
I?
that's a good question. Like, because I know because Carl and I have talked before. We know burnout is real because we have burned out. Granted,
Mm.
it's not because like what was your friend doing? He was just working like
Now he was just an idiot. To
oh
be to be very bluntly, like, okay, so he worked in a furniture store as a salesman, and they the sales niche in the Netherlands, like wherever you go, is kind of like they pretend to be the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, oh, I made this many sales today, dude. You sell furniture. Come on. But they try to overwork themselves, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm burned out. I'm like, no, you're not.
oh,
Like,
they're doing like the entrepreneur thing where it's like the identity of the hardcore
hustle,
salesman is you're
hustle,
burning yourself out.
bingo.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. We were talking about
hustle,
real
man.
burnout. We're like, well, case in point, when I got back from deployment, I didn't know this. It was me and like two other guys I worked with. He kind of developed an eye twitch. It took
Mhm.
us like 4 months to get rid of it.
Oh
We
yeah,
didn't even
that's
notice it was there. One day somebody looks like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
that's a real one. I mean, that's a real burnout.
Yeah. But and then the thought for this one was so Carl and I talked about that last week, and then we have you on here, which is awesome. Thanks for coming, by the way.
Thanks for having me.
And then why don't we talk about what to do after the burnout? Because obviously you can't just stay burned out forever. You get your rest and recuperation. You do what you got to do, but then you got to go back on the horse. But knowing now what you knew then, you clearly have to approach it from a different angle. Otherwise, you're just going to go through a cycle of burnout and work and burnout and work. And it sounds way too much like somebody who's manic depressive to me, where depending on the day, they wake up either elated or depressed as hell.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's a vice, I guess. Working becomes the vice. Like, you either got alcoholics, nicotine, drugs, whatever. But for some people, it's work. All they
Oh,
can
the
do is work.
workaholism thing, yeah.
Bingo.
I'm
And
surprised. More like, and I get it. That's why coffee isn't considered a drug, and workaholism isn't considered like an addiction. Is just because they're useful to other people.
mhm.
It's almost like that drug dealer. Like, you'll keep selling you cracks. He's making money off it, even though it's killing you.
Mm, true. But I mean, then you get the age-old argument: who is to blame, the dealer or the user?
Yeah, that's what I love though. I'm like, women and children worry about blame. I'm just focused on fixing problems.
Yeah, very true. Very
But
true.
did you notice how common that is though? How often it is like you bring up any situation that like it's bad for men or whatever, and the first thing you get is a handful of people who will like look to assign blame before they even deal with anything else. It's like their only thought.
I mean, isn't that the typical political debate these days?
Oh, jeez, I don't even know. I've been trying my best to stay out of it. It's so hard.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. But I mean, I have a certain view of the world where I'm like, well, if you're poor, try to change it. Like, why are you poor? What's happening with your finances?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I mentioned that to, let's say, a coworker or a friend of mine, it's like, well, it's not fair that people are poor. I'm like, I didn't say it was. Like, I'm not sitting here on the mountaintop saying, well, you know what? Life is pretty fucking fair that people are starving right now. I like that. Let's keep it
Fair.
like that.
The other
Yeah.
thing that kids tell their dad, this isn't fair. Why
Well,
does
like
Cindy
that.
get candy and I don't? It's because you're a
Like,
fat fuck kid.
I'm just looking at it and saying, like, well, maybe these people should ask themselves, and maybe we should ask ourselves, how is this happening? Well, it's not fair. Well, not what I said. I'm trying to get a debate going. So, yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's
Yeah.
no decency in discussion these days anymore. Like, we disagree. Well, good. No, we disagree, so we can't hang out anymore. Oh, okay then.
Is that like even over there in like the Dutch land?
Yes.
So I play on words for Deutschland, but
Oof.
they actually do that Trump derangement syndrome, like thoughts mean your friends and
Oh
crap like
man,
that.
I used to talk to my ex
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and 2016 came around.
Right.
I don't even remember how this came up.
You talked about politics to a woman. That's what came up.
Well, no, she was. I don't even know. I mean, the weird thing is, and you know this, that girls out of nowhere they see a new fashion trend on the news, which is hating Trump, and in the normal conversation, she brings it up like, "Oh, that would be even worse than voting for Trump." And she mentioned that, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not an American, but if I were, at least I wouldn't vote for Hillary." And out of nowhere, she states, "Well, that would mean you would physically harm me." I'm like, "Whoa, where did you get this from?" And
Serves you
she,
right for having a conversation about politics with the
I
chick.
know, I know. Hey, she started it.
Yeah. No, I had to ban news from the house. Like I noticed this. The news would be on and my girl would get mad and start yelling at me. Not because of that, but just in general. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're rotting your brain.
Oh yeah.
Sneaks in every now and again where we watch because that's like our one guilty pleasure. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
this, but Ontario had a couple new cases, and so they're going to lock down the province again. So our premier, who's Doug Ford, you may know his brother from the one that smokes crack. Our
Mm.
guilty pleasure is watching him get up there and chastise you like it's his dad, like it's your dad.
Uh-oh.
Guys, come on, man! I'm telling you, you got to stay home. These cases are bad. We're doing what we can here, and you guys should do better. And I was like, fucking Dougie. But that's as far into it as I'll ever go.
I mean,
Oh yeah, I
going.
guess we're getting off topic here. The burnout thing. So you were like working out was your example that you had was a really good one. I think we should start with that.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Well, the example I had was that guys who start out with the gym just completely exhaust themselves
Mm-hmm.
with taking progressive overload to the next level it shouldn't be at. Like, add 5 pounds to the bar? Why not 10? Why not 20? I want to rape my legs when I do leg day. And yes, I actually heard somebody say that. I'm like, or just a thought, you could maybe add 2 pounds every workout, stay consistent with that, and over a year you might have added, well, maybe 50 pounds. And if you're doing it right, maybe even more than that. No, I want to feel it every time I train. Pre-workout, 3 scoops. 6 months later, yeah, I don't go to the gym anymore because, well, my knees hurt and kind of hurt my back. And
Snap City.
yeah, Snap
Oh,
City
yeah.
is a real place.
And that was the point because I was thinking of this one when you were talking about that example before off camera. So many guys will do that because the idea of being the big, strong, tough guy who's lifting weights. You'll watch. I know this is a dated reference, but do you remember Animal Pack? PAK?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's like this supplement store, but they used to have these black and white videos of this guy who went to work out like at 4 a.m. in like a hoodie, cargo shorts, and combat boots that were unlaced. And he always had
So
like his 4 liter jug of water with him because that was like the
stereo-
biggest thing back then.
the stereotypical Kai Green bodybuilder.
Yeah, and it was hardcore film grain. He's just sitting there lifting heavy and lifting hard, and everything is just cement and stone, and it was all very masculine. It's like that Icelander documentary about the strongest man competition stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen their workout gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like everybody watches that, then they go and they lift, and then they snap themselves, and then they don't go back. And I was like, clearly feeling like a man is not as easy as being as a man.
Oh no, absolutely not, because they're forgetting that like Haftor and what's it? Goddamn it, Eddie Hall, guys like that have been the beginner. They know how to build something up. Like they've been the scrawny little dude who needs to add 2 pounds every training session before you get to the nitty gritty all cement look and acting like a tough guy.
Yeah.
You can't start out as the tough guy benching 300 pounds or whatever. You need to build that up.
Yeah, well, and that's the focus. So these guys burn out. Same as like work guys burn out. Anybody can burn out if you're doing too much, too hard, too long. But then they just stop coming.
Yeah.
And that's not the best idea, obviously. I mean, sticking with a workout is going to be a good thing. You can't just stop working your first chance of burnout. You got to take your break, but then afterwards, you got to come up with a system to get back online. I was curious from a workout perspective if you've seen anybody successfully do it. Because work-wise, I got tons of examples, but
Like with working out, like from getting a burnout to trying it again.
yeah.
Do I have an example about that? Not really, because most guys I know that did that were just, I mean, to be very blunt, just bloody idiots. They
Born to
didn't,
fail tattooed on the forehead.
yeah, kind of, because they didn't understand the process. But I've got clients and I tell them flat out, we are not here to jump your progress. I am here to teach you the form and then we're going to build it up slowly. So this is not ego lifting. This is not Mr. Big Man, Alpha Chad, whatever. You are going to be patient. And if you can't do that, here's your money. F off.
Firing
Yeah.
a client. That's true
Yeah.
abundance, my friend.
Well, I'm just very consistent with that because I want them to understand the process. Because what if I happen to get hit by a bus or whatever, or for some odd reason I can't train them anymore?
Mm-hmm.
At least they will understand it well enough so they can do it on their own. But when you tell your stereotypical jock gym rat this, they just look at you like you're insane. But when you're 40 and you can finally bench press 225, it will happen one day, and they can't even bench press the bar, well, I mean, I win. And they're there wondering why their wife cheated on them because they stopped being attractive because they wanted to have the results as fast as possible.
This
As you
shoulder
said-
injury, and she jumps on a dick. How do you
Oh,
men
yeah.
with better scapula control?
I can't lift my children anymore, and she fucked the pool boy. What happened?
Well, actually, that's funny you put it that way with the fundamentals, because work-wise, that was my example. Like I was telling it last week. I don't know if you were there or not. Went, did the deployment, basically 3 to 4 hours of sleep maximum a night. I was working so much, I didn't even have time to take a piss on 12-hour shifts. Then I got home. We took like 6 weeks off. They gave us 6 weeks. We sit there, we do nothing. And it's funny because I was still able to be, up and at 'em and party a whole bunch there. I just couldn't work. And then I got back and like it wasn't the same. I said I had the eye twitch and that. And then fundamentals was kind of how it did. I just stuck to routine and it worked well. Carl was even saying this about him when he started burning out because what was his ex-wife tried stabbing him. Well, it wasn't ex-wife back then. You can guess what happened. And then he kind of buried himself in his work. And then once he kind of get to that burnout stage, he just like walks it back. All right, let's just focus on doing what I can do and keeping it simple and not doing extra. I don't think that's an easy message though for guys, like, because it attacks your ego. And I think you hit that point.
If truth would sell, we would all be millionaires.
Yeah. But
I
it's
mean,
such
Cat would have left the internet.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think there's a reason that it's an older man's game. Like, I mean, old, like
30.
guys in their 40s. Like, you notice how guys in their 40s are usually the ones that don't snap their shit at the gym because they've been injured before and they don't want to get injured again. That becomes the priority, not that extra 5% max at the gym every day.
Because you've got nothing to prove. Like, you know what to do, you know why you're doing it, and you're not there for other people's opinion.
Exactly. But I don't know how to get a guy there before he learns it the hard way. I don't know if there is a way, and that's my thought. That's why I was asking you about like guys who snap themselves at the gym, get back into things. You're like, I don't see it.
No.
And I don't see it either. Like, I don't get it.
They either completely quit or they take another round of steroids. I mean, Ronnie Coleman is a great example for this. So I do have an example. I don't know him personally, though. So, well, guess that.
All right.
But what are the takeaway lessons from that? Ronnie Coleman, 8 times Mr. Olympia, broke his back countless times, had more back surgery than you, I, the entire Rule Zero group, all the Red Pill podcasters combined will ever have. Yet he keeps going at it. He just never learns. He's like, well, I got my back fixed. I can do that again because, well, now I know it can be fixed. So back to the gym we go. Even though the doctors told him not to do it, he keeps doing it. And then the argument could be made, well, Ronnie Coleman will be remembered. Yeah, but he has 5 kids, around, or maybe 4, I don't know. He can't even lift his kids anymore. And then you have to ask yourself, what's it worth? Now, I'm not a dad or whatever, but I could imagine that you, being a dad, would want to play with your kids.
Well, that's the question. Like, I guess from a philosophical standpoint, if you want to be known for greatness and then completely sacrifice your life on the back end, that's a choice to make.
Hmm.
If it's a choice, though, I don't think for a lot of guys it is a choice. I think it's more like it's like saying a cokehead, his choice is to do coke. It's more an addiction.
Well, that's true. Eddie Hall made a great point about that. Eddie Hall always wanted to win World's Strongest Man.
Right?
He won it once, and he was fine with that. He was like, I wanted to win it once, I did, and then he was done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And his main reason as well was what I just mentioned, his health. I don't know if you know how these strong men look like, but they are way too heavy for a normal human being to be.
Well, of course, you need to be that heavy to lift up those giant boulders for no reason.
Yeah, it's insane. But when you take like a Brian Shaw or a Serviscus or whatever, here I am speaking all these.
Oh, dude, Magnus von Magnus is the only reference I can really relate to.
Oh, man,
that was my
good.
guy I used to watch.
Oh man, he's good. But those guys just keep going, and they're well. Although Serviscus is in pretty good shape, but they're having injury after injury after injury. And Eddie Hall right now, he took like at the peak of his fame in strongman, he just quit. He now gets movie deals. He gets presentation deals. He gets commercial deals, things like that. He just took a shit and left because he knew there was more outside of that strongman injury world than having that particular title.
Oh, the pivot. You know, is a great example of not doing that. Aldrin, the astronaut, first man on the moon. Did you ever? He had like a memoir out where he was talking about that, and after he went to the moon, he came back. That was peak, right? Like that's never going to be topped. Never has been topped. Never since. He ended up becoming an alcoholic because he's like, what else can I do now? Like, what else is there that I can do to peak in my life? And it's the fact that he couldn't make a pivot into something kind of caused him real harm. So from his, and I know it's not burnout. He just went to the moon. I mean, not just went to the moon and back, but he went to the moon and back. And essentially like a rocket ship's taped to his nuts.
But isn't that the deep old philosophical question we answer ourselves at night? Like, what's next? What do we do now? What do I really want? I mean, you've been the first man on the moon. Okay, sure. But are you the first man who's run a marathon within a certain time limit? I don't know. I mean,
Have you been the guy who's been on the moon and run a marathon? There's the first of those.
I mean, I'm just saying something. Doing a speed run on Super Mario 64. I don't know. Like, there's tons of shit to do. But it all depends on you and who you do it for. And back to that gym example, the guy who's 40 and doesn't need to prove himself, he has left his ego at the door. Like the guy who doesn't care about 9s and 10s, but just cares about getting laid, cares about him and what he wants. Like, what is actionable advice? What do you want? And especially, what don't you want?
Oh, dude, it's like talking to a brick wall on that, though. Like the I only bang 9s and 10 crowd. The only reason they do that is to impress other guys. That much is flat out true. Girls don't get jealous if you're banging a 9 or 10. They get jealous if you're banging like the 4 next door. They get jealous for anything. They don't care about her rank.
No.
That's strictly a guy thing. But then you can't. So like you said, a guy doesn't have that self-assuredness to understand that that's his ego. He thinks that that's like an objective measure of truth. Because his ego like demands it of him. I don't know how else to describe it. Your ego's not an individual, but psychologically it kind of works out that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I exactly know what I mean. What you mean. It's that external factor for validation, which you think are other people, but it's actually just your ego. If you know what I mean. Like, you think other people will care, but it's mostly you who cares too much of what other people think about you.
Yeah, you're trying to read their mind and assume their motivations. Oh, these people won't like me unless I do this. Well, they only respect guys who do this. It's always respect. I don't know why. The Jersey Shore ruined the word respect for everybody. Respect just means treat me nice and don't yell.
I thought the gangsters did that.
Yeah, probably. I don't even know. I mean, does the world even exist before 2003? Asking people right now. I don't know, hey, last politics tick. The one thing that bugs me is where everybody talks about this being the worst president ever. And like in my lifetime, I can still remember like 500,000 people dying in the Iraq war. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Nobody's been waterboarded. So that's like a good thing, isn't it?
I mean, isn't that something that happens all the time? Like, you get a Republican president. The last one was way better than this one. Then you get a liberal president again, or a Democratic or a lefty, whatever you want to call it. And then you get another Republican president. And then it's like, well, the guy we shat on the first time is way better than this one
Man,
because, well, remember that?
so I like Canadian politics. Until like 2015, they were very boring. They were boring, and nobody liked them, and nobody wanted to watch Question Period. It was just wonderful. And then stupid Doug Ford with his damn crack smoking, and now everybody's into it. He burned out, never came back from it though. But for him, his burnout was a fucking heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Toronto mayor, right? Like, I even remember that one. Like, that guy was insane.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He was really good business-wise too, right? Like he could handle his business. It's just he worked hard and he played hard, and that ultimately cost him. So he didn't have that ability to bounce back. But the reason I was bringing that up though is because most guys in the military, I know there's a bunch of guys who are like former or current service members in the chat right now. I'm sure even Americans get this. We get this story of that chief or the officer that 25 years of service, 30 years, 32 years of service, that kind of shit, and then they get forced into retirement, and then they drop dead like 6 months later because they have no life purpose. The joke was always they would just drop dead at the gate.
Yeah.
I had a head of department, a P1. I remember Steph, he was awesome. He got out. He just did, I like 20 years to the day or 22 years, something like that. His house just got paid off. He retired the next day. And he goes, yeah, I got these investment properties. I got this side business because I did not want to be one of those guys. And it was, other than he was French, he was like the picturesque family you would put on a picture frame before you sold it. You know what I mean? One of those kind of guys. Awesome guy. Only guy I wish I could have deployed with that I never did. But he also brought Jay, his best buddy in there, his former like subordinate, who was just like him, only a redneck. He was one of those Canadian. There's a few of them, but there's Canadians that love guns as much as like the Southernest American, and it's pretty cool. His wife banned him from firing his gun in the house because he fired the shotgun off his sofa through the porch window. Dog ran into the shower with the wife and knocked her, and she cracked her head off the thing. She's like, no more guns in the house.
I mean, I think I have to go with the wife on this one. I mean, maybe she's right.
Yeah, he's got it good though. I miss him because he's same thing. He did his 20-some years, and he's like, yeah, this is bullshit. And it turns out our equipment was so old that there's an old oil pipeline equipment that you can use now. So he basically runs IT for the pipelines. And so he's like, yeah, I just hunt deer every day. He's living like the Joe Rogan lifestyle. I just hunt every day and then, work on this tech on my Nokia flip phone.
That's pretty neat. But again, isn't that what every guy runs into at a certain point? I mean, Rob and I talk about this all the time. Like, okay, we found out, okay, Rob is divorced, but I'm not going to get married. Like, no. Right. Snowball's chance in hell. Not going to happen. The whole kid thing, it ain't looking good. So what's next for me?
Why, you're not working right, or it's something?
Oh, no, I just don't want to.
Oh, gotcha.
No, I mean, everything works. No worries, dear.
Well, thanks. The West is going to be ruined now. Damn it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that sounds way more fun. Like Jack Napier, Ruiner of the West. That could be a movie title. Make it happen.
Anyways, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. But what's next? Well, what do you want? And I keep coming back to that question, what don't you want? And a good friend of mine and I came to the conclusion, well, what's the real question, or what's the real answer to that? Just be less miserable than the day you were before. And that's just it. And when you have this certain goal you have had for like 25 years, it becomes hard to ask yourself that question. Like, but I'm so used to this system, to this way, to this routine. Just breaking a routine is hard. It really is hard. And I have that with like going to the gym. Like my diet, I can cheat on.
Right.
Going to the gym, that's just ingrained. Like, no, today is Monday, we do this and blah, blah, blah. And we can only do something else after this is done. It's just ingrained. And I'm very happy with it because that will, like, return on investment is very high on that.
I've heard the rumors, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, when it's your actual job and 25 years long, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we don't need you anymore, that becomes tough. So mentally, for some guys to just drop, it's understandable, but, well, as you like to put it, we like to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. Well, here's something I found funny thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what this sounds a lot like? It's not yours. It's just your turn.
Oh, here we go.
I know. I didn't want to relate. We're gonna do that on Rule Zero, so I'm gonna go on to that. But it's funny. I always found so if you're telling this, like, yeah, your time is done. You got to move on. You can't be an astronaut anymore. You snapped your shit. You can't work out as hard as you did. Mr. Olympia is not in your cards anymore. Otherwise, you're gonna kill yourself. Don't drop dead at the gates. All right, so it's just your turn is over. It's time to do something new. Maybe not as good. Maybe something better. Who knows? Nobody has a problem with that. In fact, I would argue everybody loves it. But as soon as you apply that same idea of impermanence to a relationship, people lose their mind.
Yeah. Like,
But here's the thing. Here's the point I'm going with here, and this is where I want to hear you go on it. So we don't have purpose. You can't have purpose at work. The gold watch, 20 years, is not a thing anymore. The military, fighting on Iwo Jima is not a thing anymore. The only thing left is chicks for purpose, which sucks because chicks hate being the purpose of a man's life. At least in my experience, they hate when you dote on them. Yeah. But I wonder how much of this is just because there's no purpose anywhere else. The only thing we have that's like been solid throughout the ages is getting a wife and throwing 5 babies into her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, what you just mentioned is living vicariously through your kids, which I think is toxic. And that is, I mean, what did I say again to you a couple of days ago on Twitter?
Right.
We care more about the kids we didn't have than most people do about the kids they did have.
Oh, yeah, those guys. Dude, they drive me nuts.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, there's a reason I don't want them, at least not now, because I think about that. I think about the consequences of it financially, emotionally, whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't do that. And they're like, well, I want kids, damn it. I want my legacy. Yeah, but your kids are human beings who have a will of their own, who don't think to be your legacy when they're born. So
yeah, they're not an extension of the dude's ego.
I mean, it's a narcissistic fantasy, really, to think like that, in my humble opinion.
Oh, I agree.
But with the whole she's not yours, it's just your turn. To be very honest, I mean, before I found all this, I mean, I had my attachment issues. And when I found that quote, no, before I even found that quote, I realized you do not control another human being. Like, she will do whatever she wants.
Yep.
And if she likes you, she's going to try and see you. If she doesn't, she's just going to go walk away because she is a human. You do not control that, nor do you have any authority to control that.
Incentive-based behavior. How dare you, good sir? How dare you?
I know. I mean, you like to think you do. I mean, I am all in favor for comply or goodbye, but if she wants to leave, she will leave. I'm not going to stop her. But then I found that quote of, well, she's not yours, it's just your turn, which to me just summarized what I already knew.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, it humanizes both parties because okay, you and me, we are now podcasting together. Well, I mean, maybe in 2 years or whatever, you and I are never going to talk to each other again.
What are you planning? You going to call me Frolio?
No.
But, I get it.
You and I are not committed to each other because we're both human beings. Now, we have never been intimate, luckily enough.
So glad you phrased it that way.
Yes. But even with women, even if you're intimate with them, that doesn't mean you own them. Yeah. Some guys would say, well, if I bang a chick, I own her for life. Okay, have fun with that. Sure. But in normie world where I live, people tend to have their own decision-making process. Yeah. And it just so happens that shit happens. And when it does happen, you need to realize you never had any authority over her. Not with government, not with religion, not nothing.
Nope.
Because hindbrain, reptilian brain, you name it, she's going to make a decision one way or another. So you can stand up your platform and die on that hill and say, well, it's very toxic to think that, and as a high-quality man, eat a dick. And I mean that, because I'm so sick of it. Like, as a high-quality man, you can tell me what to do, and you will never will.
Well, yeah, it's that.
As people do.
They do. It's even the other. There's always like a sincere way of looking at it and a disingenuous way. Like you were talking about the shaming one there. A real man would do this, basically attacking what they think your identity is, which works really well on like weaker men. But the other one is like, that's just too cynical. I prefer a more optimistic view of the world, which Again, I don't ascribe to because like I don't really care optimistic or pessimistic. That's just feelings. How about
Hmm.
realistic? It's more
Yeah.
objective.
I
And
mean,
yeah, you're
it's.
gonna throw your feelings in. You can't help but you don't phrase it like I can phrase it. However, I don't
Mhm.
do corporate speak anymore. If I wanted to do that, I'd stick with corporate. It pays better.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
mean,
I'm sure. Yeah, you've done the one where you basically have to give bad news, sugar coated in a nice way, frame things well, and all that tact. And I'll do it if
mhm.
I have to. It's just like, why would you want to do it on your personal life? It's soul crushing at work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it is. But I won't say I won't be emotional about it. Of course, you've connected with somebody and
Yeah.
things like that. And to be honest, when you dick her down properly, she probably won't leave. I mean,
Yeah.
that's. But I mean, times change. They just do. And doesn't matter how well you dick her down. Sometimes just happens she wants to leave. She wants a different kind of guy who pays for her shit because you refuse to. And where was I going with this?
Well,
Yeah,
to be okay
no,
with loss, not so much
bingo.
like a lot of guys still got it wrong in the comments of that video I did too, where I'm telling them about this and they're like, yeah, she could do this at any time she could. And I'm like, the first point I was bringing up is like making she the start of your sentence is probably a bad choice and no
Hmm.
frame.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not about not connecting with people. It's not about not working to burn yourself out. It's just dealing with the loss of when that stuff goes away that you can be okay with that loss. It's basically referring to being zeroed out.
You
Just
phrased it way more better than I did.
really, I don't know, man. I can't. So when I script, that's a scripted one. When I script something and I read the script, I go through the script. It makes sense on the script, but then when I read it, I can't hear it the same way. So I
Mm,
have to just assume that when I wrote it, it makes sense. If that,
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it other than that.
No, I know what you mean, but that's kind of what I meant. Like, even if you've had the best sex ever, things will change, and you need to be able to be emotionally stable enough to let her go.
Ooh, I like that stable because a lot of guys assume it meant distant, but I think stable's a much better way to phrase it.
Oh, I
Where
mean,
were you when I was writing this down?
I don't know. You could have called Ryan. You could have called. My DMs are open.
Son of a bitch.
God damn it.
Yeah, I just don't get why guys. Everybody's talking about how emotionally tough we want to be, or guys want to express their feelings more, and blah blah blah. I think a lot of that is just meant from like bullshit appeasing to women, but there's there's some merit to it in this case. Be okay to accept loss.
Hmm.
That's emotionally, I would say there's a cost to it, right? Obviously, if you didn't connect with somebody, you're not going to want to date them. And if you didn't connect with somebody, then why are you dating them? And then when you lose somebody, that connection is going to cost you something. That's what getting zeroed out is, even to a
Hmm.
lesser extent. But just being able to turn that dial down from put a bullet in your mouth down to I'm just going to cry in my bathrobe for 2 days and then I'm going to go out and be fine
Yeah,
is like
like
a huge accomplishment for so many guys.
mhm. Just call your buddies, get a bottle of scotch, get it out, get it over with,
Yeah. Well,
and
cry before you call your buddies. Don't cry in front of your buddies. They don't need to see that.
never,
It's just
never.
raining in the house. God damn it.
Just tell them your dog died. I mean, that's
Yeah.
legit. That is the only legit reason a man can cry because his dog died.
Oh, dude, don't. I
I
got
think we
three
can get a
dogs,
pass.
man. I know one day it's gonna happen, and I'm gonna do that, and
Ooh.
somebody's gonna say something, and I'm just gonna lose it TikTok style on them, which is like world star hip hop for white people.
You mean? I mean, man, in the Netherlands, TikTok isn't even that big, or maybe I'm out of touch. I don't know. At least I
Yeah.
don't see it that much.
Well, see, my girl got on it early, and I remember it used to be hot cosplayers talking, doing vampire stuff to like five. There was like five or six different tunes, and then all of a sudden, one day, it turned into 4 5s out of 10s complaining about that bitch from Starbucks, and I don't know what the fuck happened there. Even she's like, "What the hell is this?"
I
And
mean,
then the pandering is bad too. There's some good stuff. I guess one now is really good. Is I'm sure you've seen it. There was a Mexican guy drinking a cranberry juice out of a giant bottle on a skateboard riding to work with what was the tune? It was the not Pink Floyd. It's another one of those 70s bands though, with an F.
Zeppelin
No, no, no,
with an F.
with an F. Hold on a
Nothing.
sec. God damn. Anyways, whatever. Everybody who knows what I'm talking about does. The ones who don't won't remember.
Rolo.
Yeah, he'll remember. Um, and then all of a sudden,
Hmm.
like that got popular, and then
Fleetwood.
Fleetwood Mac. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tudor. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like our NDP leader and our like everybody who could ride a skateboard was filming their own versions of it with like Starbucks, and I was just like, oh, the pandering here is so bad. This is
Yeah,
totally off topic, though.
yeah. Nah,
I just hate it. I'm like, you're supposed to be trying to lead like pretending you can lead the country. I don't need you doing TikToks on
I
the
mean,
latest
well,
meme, you son of a bitch.
is it really off topic? I mean, you can get a burnout from social media. I mean,
Ooh, good point.
families have been destroyed because too many people are on social media for too long. They let social media affect their lives too much. I mean, politics, to be very honest, how much does politics affect your daily life if you don't look at it?
With the exception of the quarantine stuff,
Yeah,
zero.
with you.
But that's like the only time I could have ever said that ever
In
So,
history.
Yeah, in history. Well, I guess maybe the Second World War. I might have looked Japanese enough; they'd have thrown me into a camp. But but you're right. I could see like a lot of people. It's just because you want to get angry. And I
It's
remembered
strange
that,
how
and that was like the one thing I learned from like Trump tweets, where say things that are wrong, like half truths, and then everybody who doesn't like you will sit there correcting it because that makes them mad that somebody was wrong on the internet. Meanwhile, your thing with the correct information just got spread like 10 times faster than you ever could. And I can see that burning people out, especially if you start like buying into the kayfabe. I think that's how you pronounce. Is it kayfabe? Is that how you pronounce that?
No idea.
We'll see. I don't know. I was with my Patreon community yesterday, and I've never had to say it before, but I always thought it was like it's a Pyrrhic victory. I didn't know that's how it was pronounced. I've never used it in a sentence other than writing it down.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was a Pyrrhic victory, and it made more sense to pronounce it that way, but then it turns out I've just been a dullard this whole time. So yeah, I don't know if I got that other one right either. So you guys have to correct me in the chat if you guys know how to spell phonetically.
Pretty active chat again. My God, man.
Yeah.
Good
Well, that's because I
habit.
got switched on dudes in here, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like between Patreon and the ones here. But I gotta thank guys like you and Corey and Carl anyway, because we don't tolerate any autism.
Nope. No,
Well,
we don't.
well, doesn't it? It seems disingenuous to me. Like imagine you're sitting here discussing ways to be better as a man with other guys, and then a chat is full of autism.
Ah,
It's you know what it has that. It's like really? Are we really doing that?
Rob and I had that on Red Evening. It was Nonstop Drake, great guy. he asked us, hey, what would you rather have? Work with black pillars or tradcons? And Rob and I thought of no, Rob immediately knew. He was like, well, I want to work with the tradcons because black pillars, well, they might go off on you. I was like, well, that's a bit harsh, but and actually we're coming full circle right now.
Why are
With what you
trads
meant-
doing death threats in your DMs?
No. I never got death threats. I'm like, well, everybody keeps talking about like nudes of red pill fans and death threats, and here I am, 4,000 followers strong, like nothing.
Because you're not
Nothing.
controversial. Unfortunately, you didn't learn it the hard way. You were smarter.
Oh well, that's a good thing, I guess. It's a bit boring. It's a bit bland, maybe a bit vanilla. But we just mentioned, like, can you have a discussion with somebody where you make an example about like poor people? Like, no, it's not fair. And now we go with black pillars, where it's like, well, indeed, the sexual marketplace is a bit effed right now, but depending on where you are, and go read Gendernomics, preferably listen to it. Carl goes very deeply into it, that it's all geographical. Like, depending on where you are, your sexual market value could and decrease. But no, it's all global, and if you're 6'5", you're a top apex, and if you're below that, you're nothing. And it's like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I was gonna
You have
say
need
I've
to.
seen a few guys who call themselves they say either MGTOW, but they're black pilled, and I have yet to see one like they're in real life thing and not immediately noticed there's a giant deficiency. Like, who is that one guy, DDJ or something like that? You look at him, he's talking about how bad man has it and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him, I'm like, dude, you think you might be compensating for something like insecurity on there? Like, come on. You look like you have Down syndrome. You're that fat.
I remember you telling me that the first time I went off being Anon. He's like, you told me, at least you look like somebody who tries.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how you said it, but it came down to, at least you look like you lift. But then when DDJ showed up, and he got doxxed. And you look at him, and it's like, what? You keep telling guys to improve, yet here you are looking like a slob. And then he says, oh, I have a knee injury. Yeah, but you don't do pull-ups with your knees. You don't do bicep curls or shoulder presses or bench presses, or I don't know what else with your knees.
Yeah. There's lots of things. You can swim without your knees. I think
you can stop eating without your knees, you know?
And here, yeah, great example too. One more, please. That's the other side of the coin. A lot of guys will take that message, and then if I lift, everything else will come into place. And physique can't fix a loser mindset. He's absolutely right. I actually got a DM just today from our local gym cell. That guy, he calls himself Gay Lube Oil. It's amazing. It's like for all the lifting he does, not once has he gone to fix any like glaring antisocial personality things. And that's the other thing. I see a bunch of guys who are in decent shape and would otherwise be good people, but they can't help but not sabotage themselves. And to the point where like burnout's not even an issue for them. Like they can't even get up to bat because nobody wants them in the field.
I mean, stepping on your own dick is a real thing. Doesn't always apply to just women.
No, I don't think it. I would say the only reason it applies to women is because it's a very obvious example, but I'd say it runs much deeper than that.
Like your job. Don't talk about politics on the job. Just don't. No, I'm serious. Just don't. I mean,
I do, but I only did to like poke fun. Like I'd never tell you the story about my Chick-fil-A thing.
Not that I can remember.
All right, so there was a weed dispensary opening up on my block, and they were having like a lineup outside, and they were going to give free samples, but it was really just like a token for come in, spend $20, get $20, whatever. So we sat in the lineup. We're like, oh, this is kind of neat. Kind of like one of those Amsterdam houses. And then there was two girls there. They said they were lesbians and they hated Chick-fil-A because of, in the States, they're anti-LGBT. And I kind of laughed. And they started going into that political spiel. And I just kind of waited. I'm like, so is the chicken any good though? She goes, what? but about the rights of the and the, I'm like, yeah, but if the chicken's no good, then who cares, right? It's weird because it kind of shut her down. And I always like those where you just kind of take a stance that's like shows irreverence. Like that's what I love about making like Trump comments here, because like I don't care, he's not my president, it's not my country, I don't really care, but I don't know, man, those hats look pretty snazzy. It's a really good way to like diffuse somebody when they're on a stupid TikTok rant about how they hate him. You don't like red hats? I don't know, Kanye had one.
I did that on I did that on Religion Zero because a friend of mine got me one hat. He got me that hat, and I was on Religion Zero, and they had somebody on, I don't know her name anymore, very pleasant missus to talk to, but all of a sudden she was like, well, I don't like Trump and blah blah blah, and my camera goes off. I'm just grabbing the hat real quick. She keeps ranting and raving, and my camera goes on. I'm sitting there with the hat, just shitting and grin. Like, well, go on, say it.
Well, you know what? Why not? Like, she's gonna be mad either way. You might as well have fun with it at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Lee, the big problem is though, a while back, I went out in Groningen, biggest student city of the north. And a friend of mine lives there. And he had a couple of girls with him. It's like, yeah, we're going over to their place. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds like fun, actually. Neat. Like exchange students, whatever. I get there. First thing that comes out of one of these girls' mouths is, he told us you're a libertarian. I'm like, oh, God. Like, how could you be on the right? I'm like, honey, I'm not here to talk politics with you. Yeah, but how could you not want to help the poor? I'm like, oh. I mean, we keep telling guys not to talk about politics, but there are many cases where girls start it, and you're just like, oh my God, man. Like,
poke fun at her.
Yeah. But you don't even feel like poking fun at them anymore. It's just like,
fair enough. It's not like girls care anyway. It's all branding. I'm surprised how much of it is just branding. You kind of think what you're told. Well, not what you're told to think, but if you give a guy 100 messages of a certain thing, you get source amnesia, and then you start to think it as well. TV rots your brain. Turns out the boomer dads were right. I guess back to the topic. So here's the point that I've kind of noticed, that there's this big separation between men. It's almost like the Morlocks and the Eloi from, was that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Or no, not that one. What was the one with Morlocks?
Oh, wait, I do know that. Morlocks.
Why am I drawing a brain fart on this one? I'm trying to sound intellectual here.
Why do we always end up talking about movies? The power fantasy.
Well, I was thinking the book, but Morlocks. The Time Machine. That's the one.
Mm.
All right. So you got guys that like do generally work hard at whatever, picking up girls, making money, serving your country, any kind of like endeavor. And then they burn out and then they have to move on or they don't move on. And that's like separating, I'm finding slowly but surely between those guys and the ones that don't even get to a point where they could burn out even if they wanted to. Like I'll dunk on DDJ because why not here? I can't think of another example of a downy. He's never going to get to a point where he works out to the point where he, kills himself. He complains about his knees, but I don't believe it. That's like hearing about somebody's gluten intolerance and you're like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I wish gluten intolerance, it's only gluten intolerant when other people can see you. When they're gone, it's muffin time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this weird separation. And I think as a content creator, have you noticed this yourself where you can either appeal to the sensibilities of one group, the guys who try things and want to do better and like solve problems, like I burned out, what do I do next? Or I got divorced and I lost my life, what do I do next? And then the other group of guys, which is just like so alien to any of these concepts that they really don't know what to do but emote. And I know it sounds like an easy decision to make, but I noticed a lot of people are kind of, because the engagement and attention is so much stronger on that side, they kind of lean that way. I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, I mean, as I said before, if truth would sell, we would all be millionaires. And that's the case. It is so much easier for men to just say, you know what, whammon, am I right? Bitches ain't shit.
I see you caught the point of those. Whammon, am I right, fellas?
I know, right? For Ninth Amendment? Nah. But it's so much easier to do that than to say, well, you know what? If you want to get the girls, it's not that hard. You just... And this, I still don't know how to properly phrase this because it just sounds very Buffalo Bill. But okay, stay with me. Do you look like a guy that... Oh, no, let me rephrase this.
Do I look like the guy who puts lotion on his skin?
No. Like, do you look like a fuckable guy? Like, would you consider yourself fuckable?
Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me.
Bingo. Like, do you look at yourself and think like, yeah, I'm an attractive guy. I did the work. Can you say that about yourself? Or do you look in the mirror and say, well, I kind of look repulsive? If that's the case, you need to do some work. But instead of that, like the PowerPoint MGTOWs like to point out, well, hypergamy has been unfeathered right now, and on the page 5 of the Rational Mill, you can read back that, well, women and men love differently, and women don't love men as men would like to. So better get a dog and a doll.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, though? Like right there's a perfect example. That's what I specifically mean by don't eat paint. It's that lowest common denominator style of teaching that I learned from the military, and I absolutely despise it. There's a lot of ways to put in the work. We could talk about, your workout schedule, coming back from burnout, stick to the fundamentals, just go low. If you lose something and it's not coming back, just let it go. Start something different, even if it's not as good, it's something different. Like that's that conversation. But then when and this is why I think John and Sean have both wanted to discuss the last video, and I'm like, what's the point? Because then as soon as you make this argument, they're just arguing over, well, the PowerPoint MGTOW type guy is going to misinterpret this as this. And I'm like, fuck him.
Yeah.
Well, and this is what got to the core of it. Like, this is burnout from a content creator's perspective. You can appeal to one group. The one group, very non-engagive, but very switched on. Their problems are real, they're visceral, and they're really good things to learn from. You can teach other people. And I'd argue like you, me, Rob, Rolo, Troy, like a lot of the guys, Rich, a lot of the guys go that route. But then a lot of the guys just appeal to that MGTOW route because it's great, easy engagement. Whammon is bad. It's not your fault. Blah, blah, blah. And it's not just making things worse because they get that cathartic release. The content creator burns out because, I don't know if you've noticed this, but these same type of guys are the ones most likely to start harassing your family offline. So I don't want to deal with that crap. First off, my mom will kill a motherfucker. She'll stab somebody, man. She doesn't play around.
Redneck Canadians.
She was born raised in a Black Baptist family in Alberta during the 60s. Like, even though that's where the railroad ended, the Underground Railroad had ended there, it didn't stop there. So if you get what I'm saying, they
Mm-hmm.
had some issues.
Oh,
Plus that she had the straightest hair out of all the girls. They used to beat the piss out of her too. But anyways, that's not the point of all this stuff.
girls
But
are
that's
vicious.
but it's hard though because engagement is very tricky.
Yeah.
You want engagement, don't you? Everybody loves engagement. But
Yeah.
normal people, it's hard to get engagement because they don't need bullshit in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be switched on. You have to be on point. You have to do things. And that can cause you to burn out. So people don't want to do that. But at the same time, you're just trading one burnout for another. At least that's my experience. I'm still new to the game. Maybe we should talk to like Cernovich or Roosh on how that works out. But I think Roosh is a great example of how
Yeah,
not to rebound from a burnout.
Rouge is a very good example. Absolutely. Like he got what he wanted, and he even stated in which one is it again? Free speech isn't free. Great book, by the way. I mean, say whatever you want, but Rouge was a good writer.
Yeah.
But he even states in free speech isn't free when somebody asks him how much is enough, and he's like, well, after 25 girls, it gets boring. But here we go again. What do you want to do after that? Like now you're stuck at the gate. You fall down, your knees hurt, and now you don't know what to do. You've been to the moon. What's next? Well, what don't you want? Stay as far as possible away from that as you can. But they don't for some reason. Because well, goal number 1 is gone. Now I don't know what to do anymore. And with content creation, I mean, to be honest, I'm a very lazy content creator, to be really like I have my live stream on Friday night, which is Saturday
Yeah.
morning for me, and people could make the argument, well, you get up at 6. Yeah, but that's normal for me.
Yeah. Everybody
So
gets up at 6. You don't? Exactly.
that's no hard thing to do. And then I make a snip out of Red Evening these days and post it on a Tuesday. I do the live stream Q&A for the members, but other than that, I interact a bit on Twitter. But with YouTube, it's more like the guys who like it will stay. And I don't feel like chasing clout that much on YouTube for the clout that I get.
The cost benefit isn't worth it. You got to pick bigger targets, man. Go after a Shoe on Head or Leafy or H3H. Actually, don't go after him. He's untouchable.
Yeah, but I mean, why should I? Because I'm not going to convince those people anyway. So I'd rather just focus on what I want to do and with the people who it resonates with. Instead of, well, I need to get it as big as possible and I need to do as much as possible. Yeah, but I can keep that up for about maybe a year, and I kind of want to stay here for, well, until I get bored with it. Instead of, I can't do it anymore. If you know
Yeah,
what
I
I
agree
mean.
with that. All right, here, one sec. I just realized I accidentally booted somebody and I didn't mean to boot them. In the chat, you guys seem to be talking a lot about some of the more personal stuff. I'll just make it clear. No personal names of people, no doxing, any of that stuff. I know they've already had it elsewhere. I just don't want that shit on my channel. So consider this the one warning. One Man's Way, thank you for the $10 super chat. Dude, yeah, he's getting LASIK, by the way. He's getting his eyes fixed, which is going to be awesome. You have to change that Avi to something else, less nerdy. The sphere is the easiest male space. Everything is cause and effect, and this space analyzes every aspect from every angle. Basically, men are addicted to finding the best way and paralyzed. Oh, dude. Speaking of burnout, it's like analysis paralysis. You can't get analysis without anal. I wholeheartedly agree, man. That's what I mean. That's exactly what I was talking about. Like with the two sides, the Eloy and the Morlocks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys that'll take something here. All right, I don't know how to pick up girls. They get enough of a pickup framework to go try it. It kind of works. And if it doesn't work, they at least have like a game that they can play amongst themselves, keeps the thing fun and engaging. And then you get guys that are like have to understand every nuance of every hand gesture and every movement before they even go out and try.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, and both those guys need a specifically tailored piece of advice, right? I mean, the other guys just, you basically have to yell at them and berate them. That's where all that stupid, hey, cupcake, man up and fuck them hoes comes from. It's from
Full
that first
Metal
guy. Because they basically need to be yelled at like you're their dad to get them to do things. I hate those guys because they're just children.
They are.
And all you're doing by being their demagogue is just making them into another sycophant, right?
Mm-hmm. You're replacing the dad, and I mean, no, that's not gonna happen.
Well, yeah. Well, Peterson did it. Look at how well it worked out for him.
Yeah, how's his daughter?
I don't care. I don't like she's here. I get it, but I don't get it now. Like I don't get it, but I get why people are doing it. Why she's a thing, because my dad was popular and I got a name and I have tits. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. But you never said to clean your room. In
No.
fact, you just said, husband, stay in the room with the kids. I'm going to Russia. And I'm like,
Mm, mm,
I don't
mm.
really want my international dork web to be that kind of person.
No, not
And I
really.
actually kind of, I've come to appreciate Peterson more now after his burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, say what you will about him or his message, and God knows we've had enough anti-Peterson things out there and most of those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
He went through the meat grinder better than most people have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't think of anybody else who had that much negative social justice press and attacks on him and came out of it relatively unscathed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like Peterson. I'll be honest about that, and I've said it many times over, even to Rob, and Rob is like, fanboy. But you know what? I mean, I met Peterson. Even I met him.
Oh, really?
But
In Toronto
yeah,
or?
no, Amsterdam. No, that wasn't Amsterdam. What was it? It was near Amsterdam. I need
Right.
to check that. I can't remember which city
It's
it was.
whatever it is. I'm sure there's an O with dots on it in the name.
That's German.
What? There's no. I thought. Isn't Oosterbeek have the dots on the O's?
Oosterbeek.
Or
No.
Oosterbeek. My bad. How's my accent?
Well, it's perfect. No, but they don't have the umlaut. They don't have
Umlau. That's what it's called.
umlaut.
I'm slowly learning the names of these things. So that's the umlau, and then the little dot thing on the e's is an accent grave or an accent aigu. Well, in French, I don't know what they call them in I don't know, flim flam language that you got.
No, but I mean, Peterson got it right when he said the simple phrase, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of guys doing quite the opposite of that. Like worrying about politics and not even being able to get laid. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even get a girl to look at you, yet you discuss what Trump did last night. Piss off, mate.
Oh, did you see that Carl? Like, he had a series of tweets on that back when we were like, he was like doing an extra special dunk on politics where he goes, "Hey, Trump just got elected again. This girl's gonna give it up for me." Said no guy ever. Yeah, he had a bunch of those. They're more clever than that. It was pretty good. But yeah, and that's the point too. It's kind of like you're avoiding the things. But back to Peterson. Yeah, so he burned out between that, his wife almost dying, physical pressure of this stuff. He basically, it was, and here's the part that makes me laugh about that burnout. So he got burnt out because he followed the rules. He went to a doctor, he got a prescription, he took the prescribed medications to do that, and they almost killed him. And then there was no solution to the point where he had to go to like some buttfuck nowhere in Russia to get a detox from it because nobody else would do that, which I'm assuming is like some kind of filtering blood transfusion thing. I don't know. But how funny is that? Like, you just sit here and you do what you're supposed to do and you follow the rules and you let the guy tell you how to man, just like the, hey, Cupcake, just fuck them hoes. You get that guy doing it. And then, perfect example, how does that end up? You end up a beaten down man who burned out and you have to get yourself back on it. I'm actually curious because I think Garaji is in the chat here. Am I pronouncing yours right too? He's pretty awesome on the psych stuff. He is still a clinical psychologist. And when he sticks to that, I like it because it's psychology, clinical psychology. So it's built in the trenches. It's none of that APA nonsense. He's kind of like the good parts of Dr. Smith too, right?
I mean, Peterson really went through the ringer with
Yeah.
all of this. I mean, can you blame him? All the media pressure. Then his wife of how many years
High school
have they been-
sweethearts and now in their 50s, man.
And then she gets cancer. That will hurt you.
Yeah. Plus his daughter thoughting around probably isn't helping any. Like, dude,
No.
keep your dime between your knees like your mother told you, just until the cancer's better. Like, fuck, lady.
Yeah.
I'm
My
sure he doesn't
God,
think
man.
that way, and I don't want to make fun of that because it's a really sad situation.
Yeah, maybe you should have read Rolo's book. That would have helped. But
Yeah.
I mean, how he, and as you just mentioned, I would have thought that Peterson would have been brighter than to listen to somebody who he knows isn't a good system.
Well, he believes in the system still.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah. Remember that chapter? Like, I don't even know what the title is of one of those 12 rules, but he mentioned something about if your dog is sick and the vet tells you to give it its medication, you will do it. But why don't you take it yourself? And then, well, maybe, Mr. Jordan Peterson, because you will end up in bumfuck Russia.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
And I know it's an extreme example, but there's tons of examples. I was doing the same thing when I was in the military, and it ended up with me gaining like 30 pounds on SSRIs, broken down at work. And I'm like, that's no way to live. And I'm just glad I had that like early on. I remember seeing this, and there's a funny story. I know I hate doing these because I steal all your airtime, but so I'm sitting there, brand new, fresh faced sailor, stupid, full of piss and vinegar, rip roaring, ready to go. And then on this one table are all like the weapons techs and the other like the tech guys that repair the guns and the engines and that. And they every morning they'd sit down, they'd drink coffee. The captain's an idiot. My boss is an idiot. My coworker's an idiot. Everybody's stupid. I'm beat down. Can you believe they tried to do this bullshit? This is ridiculous. We're all gonna die. And then they get up and they go to work. And they did that every day for like 5 years. And I looked at them and I'm like, man, if I ever got to the point where I hated my life that much that I needed like a catharsis every morning just to go and do my job, I would just get out. And that moment saved my ass because I got to that crossroads where like I was having that moment at work where I'm like, I can't stand everybody. Everybody's against me and this stuff. And in my case, it was objectively true, but it's not the point. Then I kind of realized, and just that helped me snap out of it. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. The system has clearly not done me any favors. But it makes sense because it's not geared for you. Like your job doesn't care if you live or die as much as the job gets done. And so you have to you have to put that in perspective. And I think that's how you get out of burnout from something serious. Like for Peterson, I honestly think if he has a falling out with the media and his social clout or whatever, he has a falling out with the medical practice, the one that he's been with most of his life. He has a falling out with how he thinks of relationships, mostly because of the examples his family's given him that can't help, like his daughter, basically. I'm not saying he has to, but I'm saying taking that burn it all down and start fresh attitude, I think would be a nice way for him to healthily come back from that. I really do. And I'm curious if he's going to.
No. He's been on the edge of death.
Yeah.
Sort of say.
He's looked into the abyss.
And the abyss stared back. His wife has been on the edge of death.
Yeah, he went to the whale's mouth and got his wife from the thing. And what archetype is this one? I don't even know.
Saved his father from the belly of the whale.
Yeah. His wife bought him the puppy and the Russians came to steal his car. And
John Wick.
The John Wick archetype. All right, I guess I'm going to get this out of here. So Adriano Ramos. Here, Ricky, what do you think of the Russian Navy? Do you have an opinion on the Russian Navy, Jack?
Dude, don't fuck with the Russians. Don't.
They're honestly, they're one of the few countries that I went drinking with that were fun to drink with.
I can imagine.
Like they can hold their liquor and they are kind of fun, a little on the negative side, but whatever. You can't pick and choose. I would say second only to the Japanese.
Really?
Oh yeah, the Japanese can drink. Oh, they can drink. They don't even need to know English to have fun drinking with you. I remember I was getting drunk in a whiskey bar with this dude, and we were just talking about baseball. I didn't like baseball. He couldn't speak English, but we made it work.
It's funny how liquor brings people together.
Oh yeah, but I think that's why. I think that's why the Japanese had such a strong drinking culture. They had to get along. It's either that or they start stabbing each other, and they don't want to do that anymore. That always ends up with 2 nukes, and they don't like it.
Oh, that's dark.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. That's kind of my new thing now that I'm back on social media. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to say whatever. My account hasn't grown in 3 months. I got nothing to lose.
True. That's kind of how I look at Twitter most of the time. There's some methods I use, but mostly it's just like, you know what? I want to say what I want to say. A while back, I just tweeted out about the whole, what was it? A couple of years ago, I had 3 paper routes, and now I have a semi-government job. You know what my job is? Sit at home, answer clients every now and then. But in the meantime, I can just play video games, read a book, or watch podcasts, and I get paid for it. Seriously. Like top apex, Maslow's hierarchy achieved.
Oh, Americans, you might not know this, guys. There were Yanks in the chat too. So the way he's describing government work is kind of how the rest of the world sees it. It's actually kind of more of a status position.
Yeah.
Status, easy go of life. It's kind of like, it's almost like the retirement bonus. Well, my buddy does that too. He doesn't do that, but he's a contractor for the military now. And he does a lot of like high level, strategic level stuff. Same thing. He laughs. He's like, dude.
Easiest thing in the world.
Well, he came back to me one day and he's like, it's weird. And he kind of knew this ever since he switched over to the officer side. It's like, nobody yells at anybody anymore. I'm like, what? He goes, like, I know they do, but I've noticed this. No chief, no officer, nobody's yelling at anybody while I'm in the room anymore. And I thought that was hilarious. He's like, I'm on the other side, and oh my God, this is wonderful.
It's pretty neat. But like normally the scene on Twitter would be escape your 9 to 5, blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude,
Nobody's ever had a job that says that.
I mean, be part of the system yet not of it. You know that phrase? That's how I handle life these days. Like I know what's going on, but I will exploit you because I know the rules. So no snowball's chance in hell you're gonna own me. It's just gonna be smooth sailing for me from here on out. That's what I want. Like I'll play, but I'll play how I want to.
Yeah, well, that's the playing not to lose thing. Which whatever, it's government jobs are stable, so you might as well play it as a stable game, which works out well. And I mean, you can't complain. You're gonna do 20 years, you're gonna get your pension, and then life's gonna be great, right?
Well, not necessarily that, because I have thought about it. What you just mentioned, is it playing not to lose? Well, it depends on what I see as winning.
Right.
To be very honest, I mean,
what's a good point? That is a fair point.
And I'm not covering myself. Of course, I have my side hustle. I do, and if my side hustle could, well, one day overtake my normal job, then great. But my normal job is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am not the guy who wakes up and thinks, oh, I have to go to work. And like, oh, well, gotta go to work. Well,
yeah, once you get to a decent position, that 6-figure thing everybody keeps talking about, that's fairly attainable.
Yeah. I mean, I don't earn 6 figures, not that, but it really is just easy going. Like when you have to get to the factory and things like that, or you get a job where your boss keeps yelling at you and you have to deal with HR and things like that. I don't have that. Like, I've won, sort of say. Is that playing not to lose? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's lose what? Win what?
Losing what? I got free AirPods from work. Like, well, guess I'm a loser then.
What the hell? Oh, somebody was saying apparently Canada sent one of my Corvettes out to China because of all the Taiwan stuff. Yeah, we don't have Corvettes, man. We have frigates and destroyers and tankers, and we got some and like minesweepers, but those are like for reservists, so they don't really count. They took the old machine guns off of the HMCS Rainbow for that one. That Rainbow fought in the World Wars, just so you know. We borrowed it from the Brits. Hey, we need to fight the Krauts. Can you give us one of these things? They're like, yeah, here, take this one. It's old.
Nice.
Yeah, Marty's got a great point here. To be top 10 income is very achievable, and you'll at some point getting up there, you're going to burn out. And then at some point, you're going to get there and you realize, like you said, like what's winning? How much money do I need? Do you need to be a millionaire? I'd argue you don't. Some people say, no, I'm going to be. I'd argue, though, a lot of guys either don't know what else to do. And so they just take whatever goal, like make some money, and they amp that up to 12. And they're like, all right, let's make $1 million. It's always 100,000 or $1 million. You ever notice it's just those big round numbers? Which makes me think that they haven't thought through how much money they want or they need. So they just pick something with enough zeros in it.
I mean, my goal has always been be comfortable and without stress.
That helps.
Because, I mean, I won't give you the Batman origin story, but I used to be afraid to go to sleep. And now I can just sleep tightly.
You know yeah, Kruger will get you in your dreams.
I mean, no, not that. No, it's worse. You thought Kruger was bad, but no, but seriously, like for me now, just having everything being stable is winning for me. Yeah. So everything after this is just bonus. Like I found about index funds investing. Like, oh, how does that work? Oh, this makes it even more easier. Okay, cool. I talked to a friend about this morning. He's like, you have everything you need put in place so well that you kind of don't need anything anymore. Like my squat rack and things like that are to the left of me.
Right.
I mean, I could just walk up, do a set, sit back here. Like no need to.
Is that a challenge?
No.
Squat during the podcast challenge?
Keep my headphones on, but no need to get on my bicycle, get in the car, whatever. I have now positioned myself where everything is easy.
Mm-hmm.
How is that not winning? Well, you're not a millionaire. Yeah, but I don't need to be because everything is easy.
Yeah,
Well,
do you
you
ever get
don't.
bored yet, though? Have you gotten that point? Or is it you that guy
Oh,
that does
yeah.
that?
Oh, absolutely.
I love, that's
Absolutely.
my favorite problem to have, but I totally feel it.
Well, the thing is, I still feel guilty when everything is done because I do get up early and, well, the workout is done, the meal prep is done, the video is done, podcast is done. I've narrated something, you name it. I've done my client work. And
Now
then
it's
it's like,
10:45.
yeah, no, seriously. Now it's 10:45 and kickboxing starts at, 7:30 p.m. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, what do we do now? And then
Dude, you know what you do now? This is where weed and Xbox and drinking and gaming and now like running game. Well, yeah,
Nintendo
yeah,
Switch.
exactly. But that's the point. Like all this, real men don't do this. Real men don't do that. It's like, well, real man finished his job at 10:45, so real man has to kill some time. So he's gonna play Call of Duty.
And eat a dick. Like, piss off. Everybody who keeps telling me that, I am so pissed off at that. Like, no, there is a point in a day where you're like, well, I can't work out ahead because then I won't have anything to do tomorrow.
Hmm.
So if you're gonna shame me, go ahead and eat a dick.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I know some people like. I think Weimer Please was saying it. Having more money is better than not. For him, he would probably like to fill that time with another side hustle. Which,
mhm.
if that's your, but I mean, if you want to do that, fill your boots. But you don't
Yeah.
have to. Nobody
Curvy
said you had to.
Curvy brought it very nicely to me, which made it very interesting. He's like, Warren Buffett sees making money as a game, and all of a sudden, like that light bulb went up in my head, like, hey, I can look at this like a game. Like, okay, how do I expand my finances in a more subtle way that is easier? And then you look up the fire movement and things like that, and
Hmm.
everything just folds out. And then you achieve that. It's like, okay, what's next?
Why'd you make it 150K? Because I can do like 140, but I can't make 150. I think he's just doing that to exclude me from the conversation. You
Yeah,
motherfucker.
or me. I mean, I don't make 150K plus.
Yeah, well, most of my good buddies, like my brother, my good buddies, yeah, flying over an island of the Caribbean. Yeah, there's all those things there. I've done, and I hate to say it too, like the first class flying thing. I've done it, and I'm not like it's okay. It's better than being cramped, but it's not the
Mhm.
kind of thing that I want to flex with anymore. But I have a hard time being impressed by much. Very
Well,
very numb to the world. You know what I mean?
I do want to address one thing
Hmm.
because Wine More Please is right.
Hey, he's
What
right.
we, now, what we just said can be interpreted very, very bad.
Oh yeah, by the don't eat paint crowd. Sure.
Bingo. And that's when you get playing not to lose. And that's where you get it wrong. Because I do believe a man should strive for what he wants. But what he wants differs from what I want and or from what you want. And this is where guys get it wrong. It's like, oh, well, apparently Jack said I really don't have to do anything. That's not what I said. I said I wanted to be comfortable. Doesn't mean you don't have to get out there and slay. Know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
my goal isn't to bang nines and tens on the regular. But if you have that goal, I would say get out there and do your best.
Well, that's we're getting into like categorical imperatives versus hypothetical. Like what you
Bingo.
said, what do you want? And he's right. If you haven't earned the kind of money where you get to flex like that, then you're probably not the best opinion on flexing like that, which
Bingo.
is fair.
And
At the
I've
same
gone on record.
time, yeah, if I tell you that you must do that now, that's a different argument to make. That's basically trying to replace the guy's dad, either as a brand or as a helpful idiot or whatever. And that's where you get all these soccer marms, like your female friends from work asking you when you're going to get married, or your coaches online telling you, hey, just man up, cupcake, and don't disrespect women or whatever the hell, or the real man crap, or looks money game. You got to have six figures or you're not a man and all that crap. I find that. And the reason I find it damaging is not because it's wrong. It's not really anything that can be wrong. It's like, it's not even wrong. You do know the concept, not even wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, not even wrong and then wronger than wrong. So they take something that's not even wrong. What do you want is like, what do you want? And then they make it wronger than wrong in that six-figure side hustle, or what are the other examples there? Jack your way to a six-pack, or although six pack's kind of attainable, so it's not the best example.
Oh,
But you know
it's
what I mean? That
easily
pick
attainable.
pick top, like if you're not a Michael Jordan poster on somebody's wall, you failed as a man. Like that shit. Do people still
I
put posters on their walls anymore, or am I dated? Do they just put like staple a tablet up there?
I think they have screensavers on their phone.
It's the phone screensaver now.
Hmm.
Kobe Bryant glaring at you from heaven on your phone.
I mean, I get the motivation part. I do. I mean, I do get the motivation part, but at a certain point, you just need to ask yourself, like, do I want this for my ego so that other people will look at me in a certain way, or do I want this for me?
Yeah, well, it's like what
And
more was saying. It's like he really enjoys flying first class over to the Caribbean right now. That's his thing. He loves that. And I miss traveling. I cannot wait for people to stop being stupid about COVID so I
Mhm.
can go. Like Croatia's been calling to me. My girl's like, I want Ireland again. Like taking a first class flight down there, really awesome. Just get drunk at the distillery. I love those kind of things. I don't consider them flexes. I just consider them super enjoyable. And
Yeah.
I agree. If you haven't done those before, your concept of like how to handle wealth is probably, a little bit skewed.
Hmm. And I mean, I don't like travel that much. I really don't. Like, I'm a very
Like you don't like
basic.
traveling or you don't like being other places.
I don't like being in other places that much. Like,
Ah.
like, okay, the scenery's different. Okay, I've seen that. Can I go home now? Okay,
Oh.
good. Yeah, I'm kind of like that. I'm boring. Maybe I'm boring,
No,
but
it's some people do and some people don't like it. That's
some
the thing.
people
You
just
can't
don't.
say that that's like the way to be a man because again, it's subjective. It's
Yeah, it is.
hypothetical.
Well, exactly. It is very subjective. And my way on looking at, let's say, the 9 to 5 is like, can you keep a job for a year? There are guys in this sphere who need to get that skill. Like, can you keep a job for a year? Okay, let's start there before we get all entrepreneur up on this bitch.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the fantasy sounds nice, but if you can't even keep a job for 1 year, I don't think you can be an entrepreneur that well. If you know
Well,
what I mean.
yeah, well
Like,
no, you
there's
can't. I agree
outliers,
you
but
can't. I've seen that myself because I'm new to like anything entrepreneurial and I don't even like the term's just like a blanket statement because there's just no title
container.
for those kind of jobs yet.
Hmm.
Content creator sounds lame. Makes it sound like you just like diddle yourself on camera all day.
Hmm.
But I agree. There's certain things that I learned from working public sector, private sector, like on a farm, on a ranch, that have really helped me here do this. Like just being able to set myself a schedule and know that getting up, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, getting a haircut before I do this stuff makes me more productive. If you've left at a high school and this is the first thing you've done, then you think just throwing on a MAGA hat and a MGTOW t-shirt is enough to get you through the day, and you're just like, dudes, like you missed. Nobody taught you structure, and now that you're trying to do it yourself, you're failing miserably at it when it was so easy. A 6 month, what's the word for the thing where they take you in for free and they teach you the ropes?
Internship.
Thank you. A 6 month internship could teach you all of these lessons, but because you don't want the man telling you what to do and you're too proud, which by the way, it'll bite you in the ass too. The first time you have any client issues and you start telling your client of like 6 years to go fuck off because nobody tells me what to do. It's like, well, that's great, but you just gave up $100,000 a year from this guy because you couldn't handle using a bit of tact and swallowing your pride for a minute there to deal with a problem.
That's what I do hate about the internet, because now I have to like bring up a point that I said late in the beginning of this podcast, where it's like I tell my clients like, this is the way we're going to do it, small steps, and if you don't like it, I'm not going to do it. That doesn't mean I don't listen to them.
Yeah.
It's like when the client tells me like, hey, I have a knee ache, I have a backache, I listen to them and I adapt the program to them. Like, for the people who
How
turn up,
rare for a PT, man.
yeah, no, but for the people who are going to dial that phrase up to a level like, Jack doesn't listen to them, his way or the highway, there is nuance in that. So just say.
By the way,
Disclaimer.
kudos to Winemore too. Independent consultant. That's catchy. I like that.
That has a nice ring to it.
And he knows I've got a hard on for the consultant as that word. I hate coach. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's disingenuous. I think you're lying to somebody and over promising. And my brief stint in consulting has taught me that. Do not promise things. Don't. Legally, that's the biggest liability you can add, is when you promise something that you can't possibly deliver. I will get you laid. Like, granted, there's no legal consequences to it, but if you get in the habit of just making wild promises and not delivering, eventually that bites you in the ass.
This is why I never make promises. It's like, I know stuff, but you have to do it. Like, that's it. I can share the knowledge with you, but other than that, it's all up to you. People don't tend to like that. Like, you don't have the golden answer for me. No, I don't. I'm sorry, but you have to do it yourself. Do the work. There it is.
One of the greatest promises I actually heard was from, there's a course, MIT Open Courseware. I don't know if you know about this. MIT actually puts all of their stuff online for free. So you can get an MIT degree minus the degree for free. What the hell's the doctor's name? Anyways, he has a lecture on how to give better like speeches and lectures. And I remember the one promise he made is like, by the end of this, I promise you that I'm going to give you a bunch of tools, some of which may work, some of which may not, towards this goal. And I'm like, that is that's a very accurate promise. And I think for the red pill, it's a really easy one to adapt to, because we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff: how to approach life, how to approach work, how to bounce back after failure, how to sleep with girls. Basically anything a guy could want to do, there's somebody in the sphere telling him how to do it, or how they have done it in the past. And not everything is applicable. Like you said, you're not a travel guy anyway. So Wine More Please giving you the path to first class flights over the Caribbean doesn't appeal to you. It's hypothetical. If you like this, go do that. And you're like, I don't like it. All right, fair enough. But that's what I mean. They're literal tools in a toolbox. Which one do you want? Well, I want the one where I don't have to, where my like financial part is set and I can do leisure time with the rest of my time. Or I want to start a side business. So how do I do the side business stuff? Or some guys are, I don't know how to sleep with girls now after my girlfriend and I broke up. But you know what I mean? Like everything there is a different tool set. And after you've burned out or been zeroed out, or your career just got flipped out from under you, like, you know, you were driving horses and then all of a sudden they invented the automobile. You're out of a job now. So you have to come up with a whole new way of thinking. But that's what, you know, see what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The way past all of these different burnouts and zeroing outs is there's just something new. And we're in a wonderful time where there's 100 guys who have already done it, probably done it well enough, and they screwed up in everywhere imaginable. And all you have to do is watch what they're doing and then do your thing and just keep in mind the things that they did and try them out and see which ones work and which ones don't. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But now there's less people than ever actually doing it.
It's funny how that works, isn't it? Like technology keeps advancing, yet people getting dumber.
Yeah. Well, that's why I hate that magic pill advice. Like, I think it's the same thing you were saying too, because you give them all the answers. I don't need to do it anymore. It's like New Year's resolutions. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And your brain's like, sounds good, man. Here's some dopamine. You're like, all right, I'm not going to do it now.
Well, did I ever tell you the story about the €10 increase on my fitness schedule?
Holy jeez, Warren Buffett. Tell me more.
No. Well, brilliant marketing scheme. No, okay. So there was a friend of my main plate. She wanted a training schedule. And I was like, okay, that's going to be $50. And she's like, okay, I want it by then. So I already typed it out. And one day before I should have emailed it to her, she's like, yeah, I don't want it because, well, I need to watch my expenses and money is tight right now. I'm like, okay, sure. Then 11:59 midnight that same day, she texts me like, oh, I still want the schedule. Like, could you get it done ASAP? I'm like, yeah, 50 is now $60. Like, you still want the information? Pay me. Suffer. And that's what I started doing with coworkers as well, because they knew like I had the knowledge and I have my personal training side hustle. There was one coworker who asked me about diet and satiation, protein, like that. I told her everything and she did nothing with it. And then later on in the job, somebody else asked me, I'm like, pay me. And she looked at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, I am not sharing knowledge for free anymore. Like, I have learned that it will not be appreciated. So if you want it, pay me.
Look at you shedding those covert contracts. Dude, it's brilliant. It really is. Because now once you have that, like, you pay me for the knowledge. That's it. There's no resentment if they don't do it because they gave you money and you offered exactly what you said you were going to offer. But if you give advice for free, there's always that hidden covert expectation that they will take it and use it.
Yeah. But Jack, you're a minimalist. What do you do with money? It's not about the money in that sense. It's about
investment.
It's about respecting my goddamn time.
Yeah, there's that too.
I put my knowledge into you. I want to help you. Yet you take it for granted. You know what? Pay me. Pay me a shitload.
Yep. And there's tons of ways you can do it. It doesn't have to be money. Like Married Red Pill, Weimar Plays will say the same thing. It's for us, it's just a guy who starts posting field reports in Own Your Shit and reads the rules before he starts. That's like the only kind of investment you can ask from a Reddit platform. And he goes, there, good enough. And it's funny because there's still so many guys that won't even do that. And they get it. They used to get indulged. It used to be guys would kind of ping off of them, throw advice at them and that, and they aren't learning, but that's fine. We eventually had to get to the point where if you get one of these value leeches and you engage it, he actually throws out temp bans now. Like, here's a couple days, take some time off here. Stop feeding trolls. They're not trolls, but they act like trolls. But yeah, it's nice. So like even the meta of only giving people advice when they're showing investment carries over because now you're in that same, like you approach everything from that same lens. With your girl, do I buy her flowers? Do I take her out to dinner? Do I kiss her? Do I ask her to move in? All based on, is there value coming back? Is there investment to warrant this? As opposed to what guys used to do, which is just, whammon is good. You got to move in. I need to make babies, save the West,
Gotta make babies. No.
What would you do for 20 quid? What is a quid, by the way? I know it's British for something, but...
Yeah, I think it's just £20. Like,
oh, so it's like just $20?
What was that phrase again? Because there is a certain slang that goes with this.
Quid pro quo?
No, 10 peckers for a tenner. No, quick pecker for a tenner, something like that. Means quick blowjob for £10 or something like that. Like, no Weimar, please, not gonna happen.
I don't know, man. $20. I think at least a handy, half a handy.
No.
Oh yeah, dude, half a handy, and then when you get to the last little bit there, you're like, I need another 50 to finish.
Oh, I'm not gay for pay. No, we don't do that. Like, what did
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying if you were to do it, that'd be the way to do it because then the guy's in no position to turn down the extra 50.
I mean, might be a bold statement, but being a woman these days and being poor, I mean, my God, man, what are you doing?
I don't know how they can. I think that's what bugs guys about the ethos around here. It's not that there's girls selling themselves for like showing off their asshole for money on OnlyFans and that. I think guys are mad is because it's like objectively unattractive girls.
Yeah.
Like remember that one, the chick who does like Star Wars cosplay on hers and she just bought a brand new house, but she was like, a bit of a chunker and not the prettiest girl. But I think that's why they get mad. They're like, I don't get it. I get it when hot chicks do it, but why are ugly ones? And I'm like, oh, it's brilliant.
Because they're accessible.
Yeah. I have a chance with this one.
Yeah. I mean, there was the highest earning girl on OnlyFans has that girl next door look going on.
Oh, yeah. Like, Twitch streamers too. Pokemon. Yeah. Not an attractive girl. Like she's okay, but she's not great. She's like 5. Yeah. But yeah, it's because it's attainable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny when you think about it that way, because we've gotten to a point where like the good enough economy, cheap Chinese goods are good enough. We've gotten to the point that even like our sex, the good enough sex economy is there. I want my online hookers to be like, they need to look like my frumpy neighbor, or I need them to have a lazy eye. Cause then I can believe in I'm in this situation because I could get a girl like this. I can't get the supermodel.
How do you use the phrase that? I like them at least 5% silicone. And I agree with that. I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, why not? Well, I mean, whatever. If you're gonna start paying an OnlyFans girl, it's like I would pay for something that I can't get normally. So I expect like a 6-foot supermodel. Well, but if it's less than that, I'm like, I don't even buy DVDs. Why would I pay for this?
Yeah, I know. I mean, remember what I said about Maslow's hierarchy of need? Like, I've got the attention from humans thing down, so I'm not going to pay an OnlyFans girl for attention.
Yeah.
It's like...
Napster generation. I don't pay for MP3s. Why would I pay for sex?
Yeah, I mean, well, again, what is playing to win? Some guys can't even get a human interaction with a female.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you can be a millionaire. You can drive the biggest cars. You can have a real estate from... I don't care. If you have to pay an OnlyFans girl, all the material in the world won't save you.
No, I agree. Well, we even had that. I don't know if you remember this. This was like a year ago, so probably not. There was a guy who called in. I think it was on the Rule Zero. It could have been on the old one that we don't really talk about. But he called in, and he was from Vancouver, and he talked about his $2 million home and his super income and all this stuff. And then he still had those same basic problems that the average 18-year-old college kid has, where like he couldn't get girls to like him other than for what he could do. Like, you know, he could just live in his house, take Instagram photos. That would get a girl there. Or the way all the stuff they say is genuine desire. And I kind of laugh because, again, what do you want? The guy didn't want money. He was using money to get what he wanted. What he wanted was female validation. And I'd argue there, obviously, like realigning your expectations is better off. But the fact that he was able to chase money and chase it so well kind of was just like a way of avoiding the things that he really wanted. Which is funny because then I don't know if he burned out on his money making things, but I can imagine that if you're running away from the dragon, I mean, some Peterson language for you, running away from that dragon, you're making a ton of money because you just want a girl to like you. Burn yourself out on that. I think that's why guys don't come back from it, because they're like, it's like getting dumped by another girl, but this girl was the money that promised you the women. I've got to refine this one here, but it's something I've seen it where guys hardcore buy into something. You can tell they're not super into it because they ruin their career or they'll ruin whatever it is just because they get a whiff. A lot of military guys, as soon as they get a whiff from some girls when they achieve some high rank, get booted. We had an XO booted off a deployment because he was fooling around with the junior ranks in the mess, which is weird. Like, you at least do that privately, right? You're an executive officer. You have your own cabin for the most part. Like, come on, dude. But you know what I mean? So, like, did he really want a super duper military career where he's like the second in command, the number one of a warship? Or did he just want to do it because it got chicks?
I don't know. I mean, some people have the need to flex in weird ways, I guess. Yeah. And sometimes you're just going to let them. Just don't pay them attention. Or, well, if you want to.
DJM remembers him. Yeah, the $3 million home guy. It's funny, man. 12 months later, we still remember the same one stupid idiot for like a 5-minute conversation.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. He was like, yeah, I bring girls home to my $3 million home and they don't like me. It's like, it's not about the home.
Yeah, the home had nothing to do with it. But you notice that? Like, that's why I love field reports, because guys, when you put things down in a field report, you have to, like, you can't write forever. Writing is hard work. It takes time. And so you have to prioritize what you put in there. And so that's what I love. Whether they know it or not, the details that somebody will put into a field report are the things they consider important. And the things they leave out of a field report are the things that they're avoiding. It's almost universally true. I've never seen an example where it's just like something happened. Yeah, my kid got sick, so I had to stop typing there. You know what I mean? None of that crap.
Nah,
and it's such a wonderful insight into like the male mind, just to see them write down their thoughts, or even just to express them. A lot of guys, they think them, but they never express them. Like, here's the weirdest one, and I don't want to name names, but when I was doing consulting on the regular, there was never 80% of the time, the client I had would start tearing up through the first call, just because they had never said out loud their burnout, their problems, the being zeroed out concern, any of this stuff, just never having said it. In their mind, they compartmentalized it. They're like, all right, that makes sense. And they for sure 100% understood it. But then as soon as you articulate it, not. And it's just funny because they didn't even know they were burned out on their wife that was cheating on them, or their job that screwed them over. They didn't even know they were burned out until they had to talk about it, honestly, to somebody who didn't know.
It's strange how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden you realize what the real problem is because you've been, well, I guess, keeping it in so long. Here we are talking about emotions for men. Men don't have emotions.
Yeah, we're allowed to have emotions. We can have emotions. Have as many emotions as you want. Just realize that other people just don't give a fuck about them. And more than likely, it's going to ruin your relationship with other people if you use them in front of them. You can say that's bottling it up, but get a best friend or a preacher or a therapist. They're good at that. You can pay the one either in tithe or money, and they'll listen to you talk. Or a best friend, you have to earn it because you'll do the same for them. But whatever. It's not like we don't have outlets. Although shrinks aren't really good at that anyway, because they just keep telling you it's okay, and then offer a couple models to help dissuade your anger in the future. And you're like, well, I'm not trying to not be angry. I'm trying to get rid of the stimulus that's making me angry. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. By the way, be right back.
Yeah, take your time. I can carry this one. But yeah, it's good. So dude, I always love Wine More Please. I wish he had more time. I know a lot of guys have been requesting Wine More, Rule Zero Dad, and me to do these on the regular. And I'm just like, yeah, there's no way we're stealing your time that often. But hypothetical, categorical imperatives. I talk about it a bunch before, and that's kind of where we're going here. And the burnout recovery question kind of went in that direction because it forces a refocus. So what do you want? And it's a very easy question to ask and a hard question to answer. Guys don't know what they want. No guy does. Almost no guy I've talked to knows what he wants. They will pick something that they're interested in at the moment, and then they'll, run that bitch into the ground. They'll get tired of it. They'll move on to something else. That's generally the healthy way of doing it. But the one thing I have seen time and time again from me, my friends, the guys I've talked to, it's not so much knowing what you want, it's removing the stuff you don't want. Beauty of that is it at least removes options. If you can do anything right now, do you want a 6-figure side hustle? Do you want to do the corporate world? Do you want to be a consultant? Do you want to be a content creator? Do you want to write a book? There's too many options. I tell you guys, what do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know, I can do something. All right, so let's work on what you don't want to do. Maybe you're illiterate, so like writing a book is out. I'm ugly and I don't want to be photogenic on camera. All right, so content creation is out. I'm antisocial and I can't get a job. All right, so that one's out. So all you're left with at the end is like your affiliate marketing. But you may not want affiliate marketing, but you didn't want anything else. So that gives you something to work with. So there's your start. So you jump into affiliate marketing, do your 6-figure side hustle, and then you realize you've been writing so many emails, you're actually a better writer. So maybe you're going to write a book now. And that's kind of how it works. And then all of a sudden, MailChimp removes your account. You got Stefan Molyneux. So now you can't do that anymore. You get zeroed out because, that's my 6 figures a year. It's gone and it's never coming back. And, well, now I guess you're writing a book. And you just let it go. Again, she wasn't yours. It was just your turn. Same thing applied to this. Or, Red, we don't have any carriers, man. No, not at all. We don't have planes to fly on them, really. It's the same thing. Working on a ranch. I did not like the ranch at all. And so I was like, I'm going to college. I'm rebelling against the family. I'm not going to do drugs and I'm going to go to college. Then doing a graphic designer. The market kind of bottomed out of that after I graduated. Tried it for like a year or two. Didn't like it. I'm like, all right, screw this. I'm joining the military now. Obviously, the things that people have helped me guide me to what my future is. And what I thought my future is ridiculous. So let's pick somebody else to tell me what it is. Queen and Country. Did that. 12 years later, same situation. Well, the way the career worked out, I knew what my career path was going to look like. And I'm like, do I want that for myself? I'm like, no, I don't want that. Then I went into corporate. Bam. Once I hit like 110,000 a year, I was enjoying that one. And I'm like, I hated traffic. I found I was spending more money on coping with the job than just doing the job. So I wasn't enjoying that either. Yeah, I could make more. Yeah, that might help. Maybe I can just pay for like, a maid service and all this stuff. But if I'm making like 120 a year and I'm spending 100,000 just to like manage it, then I'm only making 20 grand a year. So I'm like, all right, so I'll do this content creation or independent consulting, I think Weimer Please called it. But you see, that's kind of like the process. You guys can go into there for yourselves. I don't know how this maps to your lives. You're all smart people. Like I said, Marty in here, he already has his own entrepreneurship thing going. Sloth, I know him from Patreon too. A lot of you guys are doing things. Some of you guys aren't doing things, and that's fine. But just narrow down what you don't want. And then once you got that out of the way, you're going to be left with far less options. And it's easier to choose between one of 3 options than it is to choose from 100 options. Yeah. But yeah, Red. And I think that's the best solution I've ever seen to burnout, because I've burnt out a few times in my life. It's not fun. It's not happy. But I got good at noticing when I'm burning out. And I can tell when I'm burning out when you're like fighting against the current, or the landscape has changed, or the strategies that you use to survive in a certain environment or thrive in a certain environment no longer apply. Maybe that's just because I'm one of those guys that can only do things for 5-6 years, but Bull, you're such a jerk. Keep telling Nick about his Bud Light one-itis. It's not his 6-pack, it's just his turn. Yeah, and I hate to say it's weird too, because everybody who rags on that she's not yours is just your turn thing are also the same guys who'll talk about like the benefits of Eastern meditation and crap too. Well, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people do. And it's like, did you not read Taoism? That's the same thing. The acceptance of loss and impermanence. You don't think that it's going to lose, it's going away, but it will eventually, and you're just okay with that. Enjoy the time you have, and when the time's done, you're done. I guess working out is the only one where it's a little bit more permanent, though, because if you snap your shit, that stuff can stick with you for a lifetime. That's why, and I hate it, because there's this constant argument online about workout guys. Young guys are always like, whatever, old man, you're not putting in effort, or the young guys already know, I bounced back from this, I can do this, I can lift, the 3 plates aside, screw you. And then you're like, fine, I guess you got to learn this the hard way. I guess you've literally got to like wreck a vertebrae in your back until you start realizing you should maybe tone down how heavy your squats are, or you need your first shoulder surgery. And I realized too, most of my friends and myself, we didn't get injured when we worked as hard in our 20s as we did in our 30s. We got injured in our like early 20s. Like my buddy Chris, who I sailed with a bunch, still talk to him to this day. We're great friends. He had to get something with his shoulder surgery. He was like 20, 21, 22. I was 23 when I first got my disc issue. My brother, he ripped his ACL, his MCL, tore a pec, bicep, all before he was 30. And then us having the health problems in our 30s, we largely worked around them. But it's not because like old men are trying to live like young men do. It's young guys hurting themselves. And it just so happens it's old enough now that it's been around nagging long enough that you can talk about it. But yeah, don't go too hard on these things. Even Bruce Lee snapped his back on Good Mornings, man. Ooh, yeah. But I guess from a volume perspective, and Jack will vouch for me on this one, here's a great perspective I thought about this, the way to avoid burnout for workouts. If you think about it as a full set of volume, as opposed to like 50 pounds this and 100 pounds this and 200 pounds this, you think of, if you're round numbers, bench pressing 100 pounds, 5 reps, 5 sets. So 5 times 5, 25, 2,500 pounds. That's a 2,500 pound bench press session. Then the next day you decide, I'm going to lift 120 pounds, which is past your max. Your last set, you do like 150 pounds. And, so you get like 2,800 pounds that one day, but then you hurt your bicep or you hurt your pec, and then you're out of the gym for 6 weeks. So over like a 7-week period, you've done 2,800 pounds, as opposed to the guy who, like, I think you were saying this earlier too, Jack. You lift your 100 pounds, 5 reps, 5 sets, 2,500 pounds, but you don't hurt yourself by trying to go too hard over. Over that 6 weeks, you've now done, 2,500 times 6, or like 15,000 pounds of volume, which is way more than the other guy. Even though the other guy is like, yeah, but I put an extra plate on there. What do you got, homie? You're like, yeah, okay. How's that working out for you?
Yeah, indeed. Like, I've got a disinfractured shoulder.
Disinfractured?
Fractured shoulder.
Oh, fractured shoulder.
Dislocated.
I don't know. I'm not good with doctors. That could have been a thing.
No, dislocated shoulder and a fractured shoulder.
Yeah, my buddy had that.
Right. And this is why I love microplates. Ever heard of those?
Yeah, the ones that are like a pound or less, right?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people, though, they go to like Home Depot and they get the chain links.
Oh, that's neat too.
Yeah. And you can either use like single chain links because they're only so much weight, or they used to just put a chain at the end of your thing, because as you lift, and this, how you're at the 90-degree angle, your muscles aren't as strong as they are when you're like, nearing the top of your exercise. The idea is it adds more weight through your range of motion. I've never tried it. I just keep it in that nice healthy range and focus on the volume. But again, I got arthritis in my hand from when that car smashed me, so I can't really tough my way through that.
No, but you're absolutely right. But there are many ways to increase a workout load, either by intensity and or volume, or as Drew likes to do it, slow it down.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you get better at it, that's the goal. Like, it's not necessarily, it's cool to be able to say that you bench press or squat or deadlift a certain amount, but if you're not a competitive power lifter, it doesn't really mean anything.
Oh, I bang 9s and 10s for the weightlifting crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just to impress guys, and guys don't care. If you lift more than a guy, actually, that reference, the one where like everybody who drives faster than me is insane and everybody who drives slower than me is an asshole?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the same thing with weights. Anybody who lifts more than me must be on juice. Anybody who lifts less than me is a weakling.
I mean, I've seen guys on juice who have smaller arms than I do. Then I'm just like, why are you on juice? Like, shouldn't you be looking at your program a bit more? But
do you know who Asterisk and Obelix is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that reminds me when guys take steroids and think of it as like a growth hormone. It's like, I just throw him in the vat and he'll come out strong as an ox. Dude.
It doesn't work that way.
Well, we had that. A bunch of my buddies who actually did a cycle, and they didn't change their workouts because, from what I understand of doing a stack, it your muscles repair so fast that you can fit more workouts in. Basically 6 months of workouts in 1 month at a time. Is that fair, you think?
Depends. I mean, recovery goes faster, but like 6 months worth of workout in 1 month is a bit. But I get what you mean.
Yeah, general here. I'm not a scientist. And they did that, and they didn't really plan it out. Like my one guy, he never took estrogen blockers at the end of it, and I guess he took one of the ones that were, you know how some are very bad for estrogen, and you have to take your blockers afterwards, and some are kind of built around that.
I've heard about it, but to be very honest, I'm not very well educated in PEDs.
Okay, I think it was D-bol he was taking, but I could be mistaken. Anyways, but that was the point. Ended up getting back acne. After he was done, he ended up getting super emotional because his estrogen levels were through the roof, and he kind of got boobs there for a bit.
Oh, the gyno thing. Ooh.
Yeah, he got all this stuff. My other friends, same thing. They never grew. They never built anything. They were just taking it and talked about how great they felt, and then they were done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just weird because, like, you guys got the same as me, and all I did was drink on the weekends.
It's funny how that works. Like, funnily enough, my old physical therapist, he was in the Navy as well, and he told me the same thing. Like, I used to have a friend who took steroids, but he never lifted. He was like, "Oh, this stuff doesn't work." It's like, well, you kind of
but we had a good dealer on the base though, so everybody was just kind of taking it because that was the cool thing to do. That was like the one drug you could take in the military where they wouldn't boot you out if they caught you. But this was like back when like weed was like a death sentence for your career. So, although having said that, a lot of guys took that too. I'm still amazed the amount of like weed that was going on in the base, and like it was like the hidden secret. They finally did like an anonymous blood test to this one where they forced guys to go in just on a whim. Nobody knew anything about it, and they were following through on like drug use in the forces. They canceled the study once they found it was like 20%. And it was funny because the sailors were like predominantly a weed culture. The army, especially the guys in like Petawawa, were predominantly like cocaine. And the officers would do more like of more expensive stuff, and the servicemen would do cheaper stuff. But it was just funny, then the whole thing kind of just went away, and then they started talking about how to integrate weed into the forces after the Trudeau thing, and
I mean, some people, man.
Somebody had a great idea to start asking questions, and they shut that shit down.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I mean, this is the same thing when, like cycling, like Armstrong. Everybody complained about him, like he's on drugs and blah, blah, blah. Everybody on that level is on drugs.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well, that's the thing. That just makes a new baseline now to be on. Didn't he also have like blood doping? Like you literally take out red blood cells of your system so your body makes more, and then you inject the blood cells back so you can oxygenate better.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, blood doping, man. I think that's the amount that people go through their bodies to get that extra bit of performance is crazy. But it's like supplements. Everybody forgets then. You're like, oh, well, of course he's going to burn out. He's doing steroids. Like, yeah, but you realize like he's 99% of where he is now before he starts doing this stuff. That extra bit is because that 10 milliseconds he gets on a run or on a sprint or whatever is what he needs. So he has to literally do all this extra work to pull out the smallest margin of error.
Icarus, I know.
Yeah, and they burn out too. And that's the thing. Like, do you want to be the best? There's only one guy who can be the best. Most people, I mean, we're at a point now, there's so many people that genetically, somebody can look at you at like 18 years old and know if you're ever going to be a champion or not, or at 13 even. Like, I can look at you right now and I'll say, you will never be the fastest man on earth. You can look at me and say the same thing. Either of us, just look at our bone structure. You're never going to be, like, what was Mr. Olympia's thing? The best way to be a Mr. Olympia is to have good parents.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can even see it in the hands and with the diameters of wrists and ankles, things like that. It's the small things. I still have a whole page on that research from my old PT course, but there are tons of ways to look up somebody's genetic potential just by measurements alone. It's just insane.
Yeah. But that's a freeing thing. Everybody talks about this like it's annoying, like it's some kind of like eugenics Gattaca testing thing. But I'm like, imagine knowing. Because I was talking before about, and if you don't know what you do want, just take away what you don't want. If somebody can look at you at 13 years old and say, you're never going to be a gymnast, you're never going to work out, or you're never going to be a champion bodybuilder, never going to be this, never going to be this, because the people that do that have to have these qualities, never going to be in the Olympics. You've narrowed down the things you can do to a more reasonable list. So you don't have that, somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, analysis paralysis. But what are things you can do? Like you said, you will never be a champion marathon runner, or maybe, I don't know, I'm just picking examples here. I don't know what your hand spacing's like. Never be a marathon runner, a bodybuilder, and you'll probably never be an astrophysicist that's changing the nature of science. Great. Doesn't mean you can't do those things. You just got to set your sights more realistic. You can run marathons now. You're just not going to run like the top tier, those stupid 100-mile marathons. You're going to run normal marathons, and you're fine with that. And you're going to train for that, and you're not going to burn yourself out because you're not, like you said, Icarus, you're not chasing after the sun.
Well, exactly. Well, the documentary is called Icarus as well, by the way, where some guy who was going on the same steroid cycle as Armstrong,
right?
Yet he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, he improved in comparison to himself, but not so drastically that he immediately becomes a winner. Even if you take steroids and things like that, you will still have to put in hard work. Again, there is no magic pill. And you just had a great example. Like, doesn't mean you can't run marathons. It's just like you won't be the best in it, but doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. Again, global sexual marketplace. Like, you may not be Chad, but that doesn't mean you can't get girls.
Yeah, Chad with the small c is perfectly attainable.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point. Like, yeah, I don't leave 9s or 10s. First off, there's no 9s or 10s, but, you know, maybe you have to have the perfect genetics for it. But so many people aren't even trying that if you just Chad in your own way, you're going to be perfectly Chad enough. Like, I've never seen a guy swimming in 6s complaining about how his life sucks, ever.
That phrase of yours, you don't want to outrun the bear. You just want to outrun the guy next to you.
Oh, yeah.
It's so applicable. You don't always have to be the best of everything. You just have to be better than the current option she has.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't know if you've looked outside lately. It isn't that hard.
No.
It really isn't. Even in the Netherlands, like, the average guy is overweight. So
really? How do you get overweight in the Netherlands? Don't you guys just eat, like, salted cod all day?
No.
And pickled fish?
No. It's not like you Canadians with maple syrup and saying sorry all the time.
Well played, sir. Well played.
I know my stereotypes.
Well, what is your guys'? Did I get it right, though? Is it that pickled fish or pickled herring, or is that Swedes?
Yeah. Salted herring is one.
Triple salted licorice. You guys love eating shoe leather.
Yeah, very true.
I still don't get the appeal of that. Like, if you could explain it to me in a way, like, do you have to brainwash a kid as a kid to like that?
Like the licorice?
The salted licorice, yeah.
No, it's just tasty. I guess. Like, you can chew on it, and it's salty, and it's just nice.
Is the because and I'm a guy. As I was growing up, I could take a chunk out of a salt lick, just basically a big chunk of salt, and lick that for fun. I can't handle triple salted licorice. It's just like, it's putrid to me, and I don't understand it. And I wish I could.
If we're ever gonna get a meet up, I will remember this and bring you a bag of that.
Yeah, here we have sweeter licorice too. I take a bite, you just start laughing at me. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Kick me in the head. Fuck.
Yeah. I keep trying. I'm the guy, and I ate a live squid in Korea. Like, I'm willing to try things. I just couldn't do that one. Yeah. Or Mexican candy. That's the other one I don't like, because they don't, like, when we say candy here, I think something sweet. When they say candy in Mexico, they're like sour and spicy.
That happens to be something I do miss, though. Like, when traveling, like, I have traveled. I've been to Budapest and things like that for the Sziget Festival. The food was amazing. Like, oh my God. Like, people are like, oh, I'm going to travel to see this. I'm like, I'm going to travel to eat that. That would be
Street
so
meat
much
around the world,
interesting.
man. I'm with you. All right. I guess, we're running on time here, so it's going to be 11. Guys, Rule 0, Rolo's channel. Jack, lead them out. I don't know if these guys know about your content, so start throwing out some links so they can see more if they like what you got, man.
Boom, boom, boom. The link to my channel is now in the chat. I host the little brother version of this show, actually, Red Evening, with Rob from Rob Says, and he's also known from The Masculine Geek. You can follow me on Twitter, Jack Napier Knows. Other than that, yeah, I did the Gendernomics audiobook for Carl, the normal co-host here, and you can find that. Hold on, copy here, and that's about it. All the links you need to find my stuff are now all in the chat.
Awesome. Anyways, yeah, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. All the super chats, super appreciate the support. Again, keep checking these things out. We'll keep coming out with new videos. We'll definitely be working with Jack again, and eventually, if I can stay up past 11 o'clock, I'll try and sneak in on one of his red evenings.
Oh, that would be fun. Like last time you were on was so much fun. Like you and Rob just go in to the editing stuff.
Dude, I must have looked so tired with like bags under the eyes and everything, man. I hadn't stayed up that late in like months.
Wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah, I guess that's the last one we laid out, the Among Us. So I know you're in the Discord on that one, aren't you? Now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so he is in the rotation. I don't know how the scheduling works. I haven't had time to make it other than the first one, but we definitely want to do a couple more of those. It's fun. See who's the most Machiavellian out of the group. All right.
That would be nice.
I guess we can do chit chat here. I'm gonna do an end screen. One second here. There we go. So I gotta leave this for 20 seconds while the thing goes. This is where we say clever stuff.
I feel like saying something 80s relevant, like Miami. What's that
Vice?
show called? Yeah, Miami Vice or
Radical, man.
10210 or 108.
90210 Beverly Hills.
90210.
Dude, you sound like the guy who just learned about the 80s on a talk show.